Yeah, B16, Benedict XVI, the Pope formerly known as Benedict XVI, will turn 93 tomorrow. 93. Be a lot better if he were still Pope. I'll just say that.
Yeah,
Man.
I definitely count Benedict as, in my opinion, the best Pope since Pius XII. I would say.
Yeah, I'll
Do
go
you
down
agree?
with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll
So
do that.
you want to go to Francis now?
Yeah, let's do Francis.
Okay, so Francis 2013. It's March 2013. Francis is elected, um, and he promises reform, and he appoints the alleged active sodomite Ricca to be the head of the Vatican Bank. He is the person in what context he said, "Who am I to judge?"
Yeah.
So this was, I think it was Sandro Magister that was alleging this, which Edward Penton reported back. But his reform, so Pope Francis, 2013, 2014, he creates three new task forces for this reform that he's talking about. One is the Secretariat of the Economy, which is, and here's where we get back to Cardinal Pell. Cardinal Pell is given he's the prefect of the Secretariat of the Economy, which becomes the third in command of the whole Vatican operation.
Right.
Pope, Secretary of State, Secretary of the Economy. So Pell is a very massive, powerful figure in this new organization. And then he also creates the Council for the Economy. And who's the head of that? You guessed it, Reinhard Marx. I almost said Karl Marx, but yeah, the German Marx.
You wouldn't be far off.
Yeah, it's so funny that his name is Marx. And then he also, in addition, he also creates the office of the Auditor General.
Mm-hmm.
And he appoints Libero Miloni, who is given a 5-year track. And that's going to be important later on. Now, there is the Italian mafia, meanwhile, 'Ndrangheta of Italy and Calabria, who is also very established in Victoria, Australia, as luck would have it, which is where Cardinal Pell is from.
Boom.
So there's 'Ndrangheta, and this is coming from Rod Dreher. He has an article on this where he's making connections here. And Rod Dreher actually, he wrote back in 2014 when Pell was instituted in this. He wrote, "Wow, how are they going to get rid of Pell?"
Mm-hmm.
So everybody knew, who was in the know, they knew that Pell was in the crosshairs suddenly. So what happens is Pope Francis creates these institutions, 2014. There's some measures to reform the IOR by Pell. They get approved, but Pell finds 1.09 billion euros hidden away.
Uh-oh.
In Vatican finance.
That's much better work than Vigano did. Vigano fleshed out 55 million.
Yeah, he's got over the billion. So this was hidden away in
$1 billion.
So that's so he's Pell's flipping over rocks and he's finding things. He's kicking down doors and all that. I don't know. Steve Skojec cautioned us from hero worshiping Pell. So I think that's a good caution. So I don't know, and I know Pell's has some theological issues maybe, but I do want to say, I want to credit Pell for forgiving his enemies. I mean, I think that was a very good thing to do right out of the gate. So give him a ton of credit for that. That's great. So back to Pope Francis, 2014, 2015, the Hospital Dermatopathic Institute of the Immaculate, the IDI, is purchased by the Secretary of State. So this is a hospital which will play into our story. Francis allegedly seeks a loan to bail out this IDI, and it is scandal-ridden and has a bunch of issues. Then the next year, the Secretary of State suspends the external audit of the Vatican finances without consulting Pell. So suddenly Pell found all this money. Secretary of State still trying to, they're doing stuff, buying this hospital, whatever. Secretary of State steps in and cuts out Pell a little bit. He suspends this external audit. Then Francis strips power. Remember, he set up those 3 organizations, but then he strips power from the Secretariat of the Economy and gives it over to the APSA, which is the Administration of the Patrimony of the Holy See, or the Apostolic See. So he's reorganizing things again 2 years later. So he made this organization. Pell found a bunch of dirt. Francis and the Secretary of State step in and start to rearrange and sort of block what was going on. Now, and let's jump in whenever you want to here, Taylor, but McCarrick, meanwhile, he engineers a bailout for this hospital, this scandal-ridden hospital, via the Papal Foundation.
Yeah.
And you may have read, and I don't remember all the details, but I know that McCarrick and Wuerl were involved. I know they were reporting this back when this was all breaking a few years ago. But they had kind of manipulated the Papal Foundation into getting this huge loan for this IDI. So then the
May I want to jump in just because, for the sake of justice, a while back, I made a comment on a video about the Papal Foundation, and it was taken by some that the Papal Foundation had culpability in this. And I just want to say formally that I don't believe that's the case. I believe that they were manipulated.
Yeah, and it's very important that we all take all this. I mean, we want to interpret everybody as sympathetically as possible, just out of charity. You know, we want to say Paul VI was duped, Pius XII was duped, John Paul II was duped, whatever. You know, we want to do that, absolutely. But we also need to look rationally at all the evidence and interpret things as best we can. You know, so everybody should get the judgment of charity. Everybody should get forgiveness from everybody here, and as much as we can. You know, except for McCarrick, or things like that. So McCarrick engineers this Papal Foundation grant, which also is with the help of Parolin.
Mm-hmm.
So Parolin's involved, Secretary of State. Now the APSA, which had been given the power of Pell's power, they then establish a different external auditors against Pell. Pell tried to veto this, and the Vatican Auditor General Libero Miloni. So this whole 3-tiered system that Francis has set up had been just completely reorganized by 2017, where the APSA is now kind of taking the reins, and then they are taking control of this. Pell's against this change. He says the APSA has, quote, serious irregularities.
Mm-hmm.
And then Miloni resigns as the general auditor. So his job is supposed to be keep watch of everybody. He resigns, and he states later that he was forced out by the Vatican because he was uncovering corruption with Pell. And then during this time, while this is all happening, remember that the mafia is over in Victoria. We don't know how they're connected or if they're connected or not. There's just a geographical connection.
There seems to be a connection between Australia and which mafia is it? It's not Sicilian.
It's Calabrian.
Calabrian.
Ndrangheta.
Yeah.
Ndrangheta.
Yeah.
So I don't want to underestimate the mob, but we don't know exactly what the connection is. But anyways, but there is a witch hunt going on in Australia at the same time as this against Pell. And Miloni, when he leaves, he implies that these are all connected, that this witch hunt against Pell is connected to the fact that Pell was threatening the Ndrangheta and all the holdings in Italy. So it's all connected. So Miloni is the one who implies that. And then we have Pell later. He sort of makes reference to that in this interview we played. He says that all the people I think he's used the word most of the people who favor financial reform in the Vatican think that they are connected. He doesn't think there's any evidence of it personally, but he admits that a lot of his colleagues think there is. So where are we? 2018. There are certain. I try to be objective here because at the same time as all this is happening, there's other basically stories that are coming out where the Vatican Bank, the papal reforms are working and they are getting cleaned up. You know, they're entering these other international organizations that are more self-policing. But in 2019 is when the London scandal breaks. And the defenders of the Vatican
Yes.
Bank say that the reason they say, hey, this is actually evidence that the Vatican Bank's doing well because we self-police that and we found it out ourselves. And then it had, well, take that for what it's worth. But the idea was that they were using Peter's Pence to buy this luxury property in London. And not only that, but there's the other church militant was the one who made the connection also with the Centurion Global Fund, which funded the sodomite film Rocket Man, which is also has a bunch of holdings. So there's a bunch of connection. I mean, the money's going all over the place. Now, to be fair, we can't always, assign culpability to, a transfer of money that changes three hands.
Rocket
obviously.
Man, though.
But I mean, the associations are.
I see a couple cardinals and some archbishops and some monsignors.
Yeah.
They all got Appletinis. There's one guy shaking them, and they're all sitting on leopard print couches, and they're talking about Rocket Man and how good it is. And we should fund more movies like that. That's what I see. Disgusting.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, this is pretty much all I got here, Taylor. I mean, this is the whole context.
That's it. That's all you got.
What we got. I mean, we've got the Vatican Bank embroiled in controversy for decades with, again, another investigation, another promise of transparency, another pontificate, more murders, more money laundering. And I didn't even mention the Italian state has been involved multiple times, seizing money from the Vatican Bank, convicting people of money laundering and everything. So it's just basically a new Medici family situation with these bankers and the chain of corruption, wherever it leads or wherever it ends, is all over the place. And so Pell coming out and just nonchalantly saying, yes, all my colleagues think that it's connected. So this is the context of Pell being freed. Like we mentioned, I think last week, definitely all of the evil men in the Vatican, the mafia, they are scared right now, and they want to take out Pell. Christ is risen.
He is risen indeed. Hallelujah. Go out there and be salty. We'll see you on Friday. Godspeed.